Change the schedule. Publicly, I am Alexander's assistant, not your servant. Privately, I am pregnant with Alexander's first child, which makes me 100 times more valuable than your childless wife. Sophia, the junior assistant, threw her pregnant belly in the air and slammed her teacup down in front of me. The office fell silent, and the few new employees peeked in, their eyes full of mockery. I looked down at my watch. There were still 20 minutes until Alexander's meeting ended, which was enough time for this scene to reach its climax. Alexander had said that if you signed the divorce papers, you would get some severance pay. Sophia's red lips opened and closed, and her diamond-studded nails traced my face in the wedding photo. After all, a parasite like you, who relies on a man for support, probably wouldn't survive if you got divorced, would you? I rubbed the wedding ring on my ring finger and suddenly laughed out loud. 3 days ago, in the photos sent by the private investigator, Alexander was kneeling and painting Sophia's toenails. At the moment, he was probably still in the meeting room, bragging about the business plan I had personally made. In the 7 years of marriage, he played the part of a devoted husband, and even my mother, before she died, took his hand and said, "Eleanor is in your hands, I'm at ease." "Fine, just leave now." I took out my pen and added, to Sophia's startled eyes, "But I suggest you check who the legal representative of the company is." After all, the young and capable Alexander in her eyes was just a useless son-in-law who only managed to keep his job thanks to the prenuptial agreement. I was a little tired from shopping, and happened to be passing by the company. I thought that it had been a long time since I had been to the company since giving birth, and it was almost time for my husband Alexander to get off work. But Alexander wasn't in the office, and there was only a small assistant who looked unfamiliar, packing things away. She looked me up and down, smiled, and asked, "Hello, are you looking for Alexander?" "I'm Alexander's special assistant Sophia. Alexander is in a meeting, and I suggest you wait a little while at the door." I paused and didn't say my name. Instead, I sat down on the sofa, spoke softly and said, "I'm Alexander's wife. I've come to pick him up from work. Just pour me a glass of water and get me some fruit." But this seemed to have stirred up a hornet's nest. Sophia stepped forward in her high heels, pushed the teapot on the table in front of me, and said, "Can't you see I'm busy tidying the table? Would it kill you to pour yourself a glass of water?" I froze for a moment, and immediately wanted to lose my temper, but seeing the pin on Sophia's stomach, I understood that she was pregnant. So I tried to suppress my anger as best I could, and said, "I don't usually drink tea or coffee in the afternoon. Could you please pour me a glass of water?" "Thanks." I thought Sophia wouldn't be angry again when I spoke so gently, but after hearing these words, Sophia's anger grew even greater. She even pointed directly at my nose and said, "Don't pretend with me. You just found out about Alexander and you're deliberately trying to boss me around and stir up trouble, aren't you?" I was even more confused. Before I could react, Sophia folded her arms and said in a domineering tone, "Officially, I'm Alexander's assistant, not yours, so there's no reason for me to serve you. Personally, I am pregnant with Alexander's firstborn, which makes me 100 times more precious than you, the wife who has a marriage certificate but no son, and a cheap woman who only shops and wastes money all day long." I was shocked by these few words and couldn't speak. It wasn't that I had deep feelings for Alexander, but Alexander always acted like a great lover in front of me. Back then, in order to prove that his feelings for me were genuine and not just because I was a billionaire, he took the initiative to sign a prenuptial agreement with me, and even after joining the company for a month, he only took the lowest salary of a few $1,000s. Moreover, I have known Alexander for 7 years, been in love with him for 3 years, and been married to him for 3 years. He has reported almost everything I do to me, and I myself find him a bit annoying. My friends and the nannies at home all say that Alexander is a love-struck fool, and that he would never cheat on me even if all the men in the world did. But I never expected that Alexander would not only cheat on me, but would also directly arrange to have his mistress under my nose, and every day he would send romantic messages to her, and he even directly got someone killed. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Sophia felt that she had one, and deliberately touched her still flat belly. "Today, when you came to my door, I thought you were a really impressive person, but I didn't expect just a few words to scare you like this. But now I understand Alexander a little better. No wonder Alexander said you were a daughter vine, that you definitely couldn't live without Alexander, and that even if you found out about me and Alexander, you would definitely swallow your anger." My voice was a little hoarse, and I couldn't help but ask out of curiosity, Did I hear it right? You mean you're pregnant with Alexander's child, and I'm a little spoiled wife who can only survive by clinging to Alexander? Sophia nodded. Yes, but you won't be able to be a little spoiled wife for long. After I give birth to Alexander's first son, you and your worthless daughter will be kicked out of the Smith family. I heard that your loser of a daughter isn't in the best of health. If she dies early, I'm not the kind of person who can't tolerate others. I can also allow her to sleep in the basement with Alexander and me, and be a little maid for my son. Hearing Sophia dare to talk about my precious daughter Lily, my anger suddenly rose, and without thinking, I slapped her directly. Sophia's face instantly turned pale, and she stumbled back a few steps to protect her stomach. She then shouted towards the door, "Someone come quickly, there's a crazy woman in the office trying to kill me." As soon as she finished speaking, 4 or 5 unfamiliar men and women rushed in through the door. They all stood in a fighting stance in front of Sophia, seemingly trying to protect her. Sophia deliberately showed her face after being slapped, crying like a weeping willow. The people who came and looked at me and then at Sophia, and finally pointed directly at me and spoke. The one who is not loved is the third party. Although you are legally married, Alexander's true love is Sophia. After all, it is only because Alexander is kind that he has not driven you out of the house long ago. You ungrateful person, how dare you come to the company and cause trouble? I tell you, our company only recognizes Sophia as the boss. She is capable and nice, and is hundreds of times better than you gold-digging woman. You were able to find out about Sophia and Alexander's affair even though you kept it a secret so well, which only means that you have been spying on Alexander. I don't want to listen to these people losing their minds here, so I took out my phone and called Alexander. I wanted to ask him whose doddering vine it was and who would die if they left each other. But the phone didn't get answered even after it was automatically hung up. Sophia snorted. What's the point of pretending? You know that Alexander has the meeting on mute, and you are deliberately taking advantage of this time to try to make me miscarry, so that you can sit comfortably on your throne as Alexander's wife, right? Even if I am well-bred, I can't help rolling my eyes at this moment. Fine, I'll go to the meeting room and find Alexander. Sophia frowned after hearing this, and quickly stopped her. Everyone hurriedly ran to the door again, blocking the door tightly to prevent me from going out. Sophia sat in Alexander's office chair and sneered at me, saying, "No wonder you are such a young full-time housewife, it turns out you are a brainless person? Have you ever thought about the consequences if you go to Alexander now? By then, the whole company will know that Alexander has relationship problems. Do you know how much of an impact this will have on the group?" Sophia blushed and laughed when she heard this, but it was only natural. If you had the same awareness as me, Alexander would not have hated you so much and fallen in love with me. I knew these people would never let me go out. Anyway, Alexander is just having a meeting, he's not dead. He'll be back in the office sooner or later, so I calmly sat down. Oh, then tell me, how can I help Alexander? By working here as a little assistant like you? But I can't be an assistant like you, who does 2 jobs for the price of one. Sophia was furious. How could a woman help a man and I have to teach you? Giving Alexander a son like me is the greatest help. Alexander's family is big and prosperous. Without a son, how can the family line be passed on, and to whom will the millions of family property be given? Are you going to give it to your daughter? The company's property was originally left to me by my mother, who worked hard to build it up, and I have also worked hard to take the company to the next level. It's just that after I got pregnant, I found that Alexander was quite good at handling the company, so I felt relieved to leave it in his hands. What century is this, and why is there still gender discrimination? So I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Sophia saw that I was so brazen that my face turned black with anger. I should have known that people like you have no shame. But you won't be happy for long. Although Alexander's meeting will take a long time, I've already called someone who can fix you. I froze for a moment. Who? As if in response to me, the door opened and someone walked in. I thought it was Alexander, but it was my mother-in-law Margaret. Judging from the looks of Margaret and Sophia, I could tell that Margaret knew about Alexander's affair. Sophia immediately changed her appearance when she saw Margaret. It seemed like she had suffered a great injustice. She trotted and hid in Margaret's arms. "Mom, while Alexander was at the meeting, she came over and hit me indiscriminately, and she even said she wanted to kill the baby in my belly. If I didn't have no choice, I wouldn't have called you." Margaret looked at Sophia's injured face and tried hard to hold back her temper, but she didn't say anything. She just frowned as if she was in a difficult situation. After a while, she said to me, "Eleanor, this is all a misunderstanding." Sophia felt a bit sorry when she saw this, but she quickly recovered. She gritted her teeth and knelt down towards me. "Sister, I know I shouldn't have fallen in love with Alexander, but love is not something I can control. Maybe for someone like you, who worships money and married Alexander for his wealth, falling in love with Alexander is just because of Alexander's wealth. But I'm different. I love Alexander for who he is. Even if Alexander is penniless, I will still love him. But in the end, I still interfered with your marriage. I will leave Alexander and never see him again. I just beg my sister to let me give birth to this innocent child." Sophia's appearance once again caused the people present to sigh repeatedly. "You'd better quit, just for the sake of love. You have enjoyed the good life for a few years since marrying Alexander. Don't be so greedy. Sophia will give birth to a son sooner or later and take over the Smith family. You might as well leave sooner rather than later, before you are driven away, and save face for yourself and your child." I didn't answer, but looked at Margaret with a smile. "Mom, do you think so too?" Everyone's attention returned to Margaret, who looked reluctant as she touched the jewelry around her neck. She didn't really like me, but she did like my money. After a long pause, Margaret reached out and helped Sophia up, then looked at me with averted eyes and said, "I know everything. You'd better come home with me right now and stop embarrassing yourself here." I sneered. "Who's embarrassing themselves? You might as well be clear about that." Sophia frowned. "Sister, you can be rude to me, but how can you treat your mother-in-law like this? Mom is your elder." Margaret gradually became more and more righteous after hearing this. "Eleanor, if there is anything, you can discuss it with Alexander at home. It's so embarrassing to make a scene at the company. I never thought that the Smith family, whom I have raised for so many years, would stab me in the back like this." I was so angry that my face gradually turned ugly. Seeing me like this, Margaret couldn't help but feel a little worried. She took me aside and said in a low voice, "Eleanor, men are actually like this. Alexander is just playing around with her. In our eyes, you are the only daughter-in-law of our Smith family. Besides, this is ultimately to your advantage. After you give birth to Lily, you won't want to have any more children. Alexander is thinking of having a son outside and giving him to you to raise. The child will still carry your surname. It doesn't really matter who the birth mother is. As long as you treat the child well, when he grows up, he will only recognize you as his mother. How many people can say they are painless mothers? How can you still be dissatisfied?" As soon as I shook Margaret's hand, I became ungrateful. "Then I'll be sensible and initiate the divorce with Alexander." Margaret paused, almost stumbling and falling. But Sophia was overjoyed when I said this, and if she hadn't been considering the prince in her belly, she would have jumped up straight away. Sophia tried hard to hold back the corners of her mouth from curling up, and smiled at me, saying, "Sister, are you really willing to help me with Alexander?" I nodded. "Of course, Alexander and I will get a divorce immediately." Sophia was overjoyed. "Sister, don't worry. You and I will definitely not lose out. I will make sure Alexander pays you enough child support and living expenses. We can still keep in touch with our relatives and friends just like before. Don't worry, although Alexander no longer loves you, he listens to me. He won't disagree with anything I say. Unfortunately, it's getting late, so why don't we meet at City Hall tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock? I was about to say yes when Margaret suddenly said, "No way." Sophia was stunned. She never expected Margaret to say no. "Mom, don't you hate her too? Now that she's asking for a divorce, why aren't you happy?" Of course I could have told Sophia why Margaret was unhappy. After all, she had turned from a peasant woman into a noblewoman thanks to me, and who would want to go back to the old days? But I didn't say anything. Because if I wanted a smooth divorce from Alexander, I couldn't do without her and the son she was carrying. If Sophia knew Alexander's true face and hit the child and ran away, wouldn't I be haunted by Alexander? So I just silently turned my head and looked out the window, without saying a word. Margaret was at her wit's end, and after a long preamble, she said, "Sophia, she must have planned to cause trouble as soon as the divorce was final. We women don't understand these things, and you don't want Alexander to be annoyed because of you, do you? So let's wait a bit, until Alexander's meeting is over, shall we?" Sophia nodded reluctantly, and gave someone a quiet wink. Less than 2 minutes later, Alexander came running over, sweating profusely. It was hard for him, and he was sweating cold sweat in such a cold day. I used to think he was handsome and charming, but at the moment I just felt sick looking at him. Seeing that Alexander was only looking at me and not even giving her a glance, Sophia quickly whined, "Alexander, you're finally here, just." I impatiently interrupted Sophia's words, "Alexander, let's get a divorce." Alexander naturally broke out in a cold sweat again. He roared at the people in the office, "Get out of here." Sophia wanted to say something else, but Alexander quickly gave Margaret a look, and Margaret, startled, immediately pulled Sophia out of the office while covering her mouth. When the office was completely quiet, he knelt down next to me and said sheepishly, "Honey, this is all a misunderstanding. Sophia is pregnant with my child, but we don't have any feelings for each other. It was just an accident. I'll tell her to get an abortion and never show her face in front of us again. Will you give me a chance? You know I only love you, and you've seen what I've done over the years." I impatiently made a gesture to shut up. "Okay, I'm not here to judge. Whether your love is genuine or not, we are getting a divorce." Seeing that Alexander wanted to say something, I quickly spoke first, "But there are two options for the divorce. The first is for me to tell the truth and directly get you and your little assistant fired from the company, so that you will be disgraced. The second is for me to say nothing, not tell your little assistant that you are just a burden, and let you divorce me with dignity. If I were you, I would definitely choose the second option. After all, it is still a divorce, and in the second option you will at least still have a wife and son." After all these years together, Alexander of course understands that I am the type of person who cannot tolerate any mistakes. So after some thought, I chose the second option. After confirming with Alexander that we would divorce the next day, I left the company without looking around. When I was waiting for the elevator, I could see in the corner of my eye that Alexander was hugging Sophia and comforting her gently. The next morning, Alexander and I went to City Hall and successfully obtained our divorce certificate. Alexander was afraid that Sophia would run away if she found out the truth, so he and Sophia got a marriage certificate on the spot. Sophia looked at the marriage certificate and said to me with tears in her eyes, "I really didn't expect you to divorce so readily. I thank you for me and my son." I didn't want to listen to Sophia's melodrama, so I rolled my eyes at her and tried to leave. But Sophia grabbed my hand and said, "Sister, when we got divorced, we agreed that we would divide our assets according to the prenuptial agreement. Now that you're leaving, you can't take my husband's car, can you?" Alexander reflexively tried to cover Sophia's mouth, but Sophia dodged out of the way. "I don't mean to be reluctant to part with the car, but sister just said you don't want a penny from my husband, and this car is worth at least 5 million. I think it's better if you return it." I quickly nodded. "Sophia, you didn't say it, I forgot, there's still a car." In Sophia's expectant eyes, I signaled to the driver, Mr. Johnson, who quickly understood and walked over to Alexander. Ignoring Alexander's face, he took the car keys directly from Alexander and handed them to me. I didn't take the car keys, but said to Mr. Johnson, "You drive that car, I'll drive myself back." It was only at this moment that Sophia came back to her senses a little. "Eleanor, what do you mean? On what grounds did you take my car keys? Yours?" I laughed. "Didn't you just notice? Isn't that prenuptial agreement protecting my property, not your husband's?" "What?" Sophia's face instantly lost its blood color. "Say that again." I pretended to be startled. "Sophia, are you misunderstanding something?" Alexander tried to pull Sophia away, but Sophia stood firm. "Eleanor, you need to explain yourself." I burst out laughing. "Sophia, if you had put even a little of the energy you use to seduce men into your work, you would have discovered that the company's largest shareholder also has the surname Smith, and you would not have discovered that your supposedly rich and handsome husband is actually a kept man." I looked at the livid Alexander and the near-collapsed Sophia and smiled. "You love Alexander for who he is, not for his money, and you are now legally married, so you shouldn't care about these things, right?" Sophia's marriage certificate felt like a red-hot iron in her hands, making it hard for her to throw or hold on to. She looked at Alexander like a madwoman. "Honey, this is fake, right? She's jealous of me and deliberately lying to me, right?" Alexander shook his head embarrassedly, his eyes bloodshot as he looked at me. "Eleanor, you promised me you wouldn't tell the truth. How could you go back on your word?" I frowned at him. "I said before the divorce, I didn't say I'd keep your secret after the divorce. Sophia had already broken down and couldn't even speak a complete sentence, just kept saying, Alexander, Alexander, what's going on? I heard Alexander. The two of them quickly spoke up, saying that they would no longer be able to call Alexander Alexander, but would have to start calling him husband, and that they were both fired, and he was no longer Alexander. Sophia couldn't bear to hear this, and she fainted. I was brought up by my mother as her successor, so instead of feeling sorry for myself, I quickly returned to the company. The first step I took when I arrived was to interview the key personnel recruited by Alexander. Those who could be used were kept, and those who could not were all fired. As for the group of people who helped Sophia speak up yesterday, even the interview step was omitted. I heard that when they left, they caused a big scene and insisted on seeing Alexander and Sophia. It wasn't until the security guard came up that they left one after the other in a dispirited manner. After a few days of investigation, I found that the company was in good shape. Perhaps Alexander felt that the company would sooner or later be his, so he was still doing his best. Just as I was relieved and wanted to take a break, Sophia came. As soon as she entered the office, the new special assistant was so scared that her face turned white. I waved at her to indicate that she should go out, and then looked at Sophia. Is there anything the matter, Sophia? Without thinking, Sophia went straight to her knees. Sister, no, Eleanor, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It was all Alexander's fault. He doesn't love me at all. He just wants the son I'm carrying. If you give me 10 million, I'll have an abortion and leave Alexander. I'll never see him again. You can still get back together with Alexander. I'm not angry with Sophia. After all, if there's no Sophia, there'll be someone else. So I shook my head. No way. Sophia was stunned for a moment. Eleanor, I am also a woman, and I understand you. You are only doing this now to make Alexander regret it and chase after you. 10 million is not a lot of money for you. If you give it to me and then reconcile with Alexander as if nothing had happened, will that make everyone happy? I shook my head. One infidelity is enough for 100. Men are just a decoration to me, not a necessity. I can't possibly spend money to buy Alexander back. Even if it was Alexander on his knees begging for a reunion today, I still wouldn't agree. I advise you not to embarrass yourself. Sophia's face turned pale, and she collapsed to the ground, mumbling, how is this possible? Without waiting for me to answer, the office door opened again, and this time it was Alexander who came in. Alexander rushed over and helped Sophia up from the floor. Sophia, if my colleagues hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known you were here. What are you doing here? He then looked at me and said, we're divorced, so why are you bullying Sophia? It's like someone dropped a bomb on me in the office. Alexander, are you crazy? I can't force your wife to come to my company and let me bully her. What's the point of having a brain? Alexander was a little embarrassed, as if he thought I had a point. Sophia looked at Alexander, as if she was sure that I would never pay her. She sighed with resignation. Alexander, I know how much you love this job. I just want to beg Eleanor to let you come back to work. After all, you were once husband and wife, and even if you can't be husband and wife anymore, you can still be friends. Alexander naturally felt heartbroken. Sophia, you don't need to beg her. Although I'm not a rich second generation, I have the ability and connections. I'm confident that I can let you live a good life and make our son a rich second generation. I clapped my hands. Good, good, good. You have courage. I applaud your relationship, but don't come to my place to show off your existence in the future. After all, I'm quite busy too. Saying this, I directly told someone to ask the two of them to leave, and then picked up my phone and made a few calls. After I was done, I asked my special assistant to explain to the security guards on the first floor and in the parking lot that I would be relieved only after they confirmed that the two of them would not suddenly burst in like that again. In the time that followed, I made up for lost time by catching up on the business that had been neglected while I was away, and Alexander started looking for a job. But while I was able to find work easily, he hit a brick wall at every turn. 2 months have passed, and he still hasn't found a job. So he couldn't help but call me and ask, Eleanor, even if we get a divorce now, we were once in love. Do you really want to drive me to my grave? I knew what Alexander meant by this, so I laughed and said, what? I know telling everyone we're getting a divorce and that we're not getting back together and asking everyone not to give you any slack out of respect for me is driving me to my grave. Do you expect me to pave the way for you after I've suffered from your infidelity? Are you being too optimistic? Or do you think I'm a saint in your heart? Alexander was infuriated by me. I tell you, Eleanor, don't be complacent, I'll make you regret it. Sooner or later you'll kneel before me and cry your eyes out, and your whole family won't have a good ending. I never loved you at all, I was with you just for your money, and I felt sick every day. If you had a son, I would have found a way to get rid of you. I hung up the phone and blocked Alexander directly, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. For so many years, I have been wholeheartedly devoted to Alexander. It's fine that he cheated on me, and after the divorce, I didn't do anything to him for Lily's sake. In my opinion, I have already done my best, but he still dared to curse me. So after I hung up the phone, I immediately took a group of bodyguards and found the suburban villa where I had previously given it to Margaret to live. The villa was in a mess. Without the nannies, Margaret was hanging out her laundry with a long face, while Sophia was lying around eating fruit. When she saw me coming, Sophia said in a bad mood, "What are you doing here?" I took out a property ownership certificate and said, "I'm repossessing my house." "Don't you know this is my mansion?" Sophia shook her head. "No way. You must be lying to me. If it were your mansion, you would have repossessed it long ago. How could you wait until now? Are you just here to stir up trouble? You really are just as I suspected. You regret it, don't you? I'm telling you, don't blame me for raising the price. It's just that you no longer have the bargaining power. Last time I told you 10 million, but I didn't know about this mansion. Now 10 million has to become 100 million. Margaret didn't know what Sophia was talking about, but she heard me say the word regret and her eyes lit up. Regret is good, I knew it. My son is so outstanding, tall and handsome, treats you well, and can even help you run the company. Even if he makes a mistake, you'll never really not want my son. She, Margaret, threw down the clothes in her hands and walked to the edge of the bed. Since you have come here on your own, let's get to the point. The child Sophia is carrying must be born. We have already checked, and it is a son. You, on the other hand, pretend you don't know anything about this. After the child is born, you will adopt it. I know you don't want the son, so the son will take Alexander's surname. Don't worry, I will bring up the child in the future, and it will definitely not be in your way. Sophia did not refute, but instead nodded enthusiastically. Yes, I gave birth to a son for you, and you only have to pay a small fee. You are not short of money, so why be stingy? Looking at the two people in front of me daydreaming, I said angrily, where is all this drama? I already said that I am here to collect the house, so move quickly, or I will ask the bodyguards to help. Margaret froze, staring at me for a long time before realizing that I wasn't joking. She raised her voice and said, "You clearly said that you would give me the house, so why take it back?" I nodded. "I gave my mother-in-law to you, not to take advantage of it." Margaret knew that the house was not hers, but after all these years of living there, and the long time that Alexander and I had been divorced, and the fact that I had never mentioned the house, they began to fear that I might want it back. In fact, they misunderstood. The reason I didn't want the house back was not that I didn't want it, but that I simply forgot about it. After the divorce, I took back the things that I had given to Alexander, but I forgot about Margaret. If Alexander hadn't called to annoy me and remind me of this, I don't know how many years it would have taken before I remembered this house. Margaret and Sophia refused to move out, so I had to call the bodyguards for help. Actually, their things were easy to pack. Except for Sophia's, most of the others were bought by me, so naturally I didn't need to take them with me. Margaret understood that I was not joking and cried her eyes out. "Eleanor, don't do this. If you evict us, where will we live?" I didn't answer, but the meaning was clear. What do I care where you live? Margaret suddenly slapped Sophia across the face. "Is it true that you bitch, have gone and upset Eleanor again, and you still haven't apologized to Eleanor? If we are evicted, are we supposed to sleep under a bridge?" Sophia was stunned and stood there dumbfounded, unable to say a word. Margaret didn't bother with her and pulled my sleeve, pleading with all her might, "Eleanor, Mom knows that in the past it was me and Alexander who were sorry to you, but during this time Alexander and I have actually both regretted it. Everything is this bitch's fault. Alexander and I really miss you." I didn't bother to listen anymore and simply told the bodyguard to throw them out. After packing for half a day, in the end there were only a few small suitcases. Margaret and Sophia stood in the doorway, refusing to leave. After a while, they actually started arguing. Sophia snorted at Margaret. When we first met, you pretended to be a rich wife in front of me, but now you're not pretending anymore? And you said you never backed down in front of your daughter-in-law, but just now, your daughter-in-law really disrespected you, didn't she? Margaret was already half mad with anger, and when she saw that Sophia still dared to laugh at her, she went crazy and lashed out. If it weren't for you, that shameless slut who can't live without a man, seducing my son, would my son and I have come to this? It was obvious that Alexander was lying to me, saying that he was a rich second-generation heir and that he and his wife had no feelings for each other and had long wanted a divorce. Otherwise, would I have fallen for it? Who knew that he was a cowardly hypocrite? I was really blind. Sophia was not to be outdone, and she went straight for Margaret's jugular. Before long, Margaret was lying on the ground, moaning. Sophia, what are you doing here? Just when I was enjoying the show, Alexander arrived. Without the custom-made suit I had made for him, he was wearing clothes that didn't fit very well, and he didn't look as suave as before. When Alexander arrived, Margaret let out a howl and quickly told him all about how she had been thrown out of the house and how Sophia had made her so angry. Finally, she pointed at Sophia, foaming at the mouth, and said, "If you don't control your wife today, I'll die and join your father in the afterlife." Sophia didn't look as sweet as before either, rolling her eyes and standing coldly to the side. During our marriage, Alexander had never dealt with such conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. He was at a loss for a moment and didn't know who to help. Sophia saw that he was like this and felt even more annoyed. She wanted to get rid of this old woman quickly, because she was so annoying. After saying this, Alexander seemed to have just met Sophia for the first time and slapped her directly. Sophia was not prepared and was directly hit, falling to the ground and quickly seeing red. Then there was a flurry of chaos, and finally Sophia was taken away by ambulance, and I left the villa. I was busy with company matters for the next few months, and finally found a vice president, which gave me some free time to spend with Lily. After I found the vice president, Alexander and Margaret came to my house. After entering, they looked around the house with regret and envy in their eyes. It wasn't until I was about to send them away that Alexander took out his divorce certificate and placed it on the table. "Wife, I came here to tell you that I have successfully dumped Sophia and I am now single again. Although you won't believe it, I really was victimized by Sophia. I only had you in my heart. He took advantage of me and had sex with me while I was drunk. I wanted to confess, but she took my picture. I was afraid you couldn't handle it, so I didn't say anything." I rolled my eyes inwardly. Does Alexander think I'm an idiot? How could I possibly believe that? But seeing that I didn't say anything, Alexander thought I had a soft heart and hurriedly continued, "I know I made you angry before, but I am truly repentant now. After this incident, I will be more loyal to you." Margaret quickly nodded, taking all the blame on herself. "Eleanor, it's all my fault. I'm the one who wants grandchildren every day, and Alexander loves you too much. He didn't want you to suffer the pain of childbirth again, so he came up with a crazy plan. He wanted to have an illegitimate child himself and let you adopt it. Because of this, Sophia the bitch had the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. After all this, I have come to understand that having a son or daughter is the same. With Lily, we have enough. Of course, if you are willing to have another child, we will definitely agree." Alexander shook his head repeatedly. "No, no, no, I will go get sterilized right away. I want to prove myself." This is exactly the same as the way he knelt in front of my mother and said that he was sincere about me and was willing to sign a prenuptial agreement. I laughed. What does it matter to me whether you get a vasectomy or not? The two men didn't expect that I would be so unyielding when they were so humbly begging me, but at the moment, they had no money, no place to live, and no job, so there was nothing they could argue with me about. Alexander's tone changed. "Eleanor, even if it's not for me, you have to think about Lily. Lily is just over a year old. Do you want her to grow up without a father's love?" Margaret nodded in agreement. "Yes, Lily loves me so much, and she loves her father so much. You are a smart person, you know how much a divorce affects a child. Besides, a prodigal son who returns home is a treasure." It is because of this incident that Alexander has come to realize what is truly important, and he will make amends in the future. This is actually a good thing. Good thing? I find that laughable. Why do you think it is a good thing to have a grandmother like you, who cannot distinguish right from wrong, and a father who is a serial cheater? You never thought about Lily after the divorce for so long, and now you're desperate, but you're using the child as an excuse. Don't you feel disgusted? Alexander's face turned white when I said this. Eleanor, what do you want? I've been nice to you 1,000 times before, so how can this one mistake outweigh that? I don't want to say anything more to them. I have always considered Lily's face, and I haven't done anything to you. If you come to me again, I don't mind hiring a lawyer to make you pay for the expenses during the marriage. The two of them looked even more unpleasant, but my threat was too strong. After half a day of prevarication, they finally chose to leave. After leaving my house, the two of them did not stay in the city, but quickly packed their things and left for their hometown, probably worried that I would cause them trouble. Actually, they really overreacted. I would never go out of my way to cause trouble for people like them. After all, for me, my time is money, so how could they possibly be worth my time? But I heard that after Alexander returned to his hometown, he still couldn't find a good job. It's true, how could someone who was once the CEO of a listed company be willing to wash dishes? In the end, he couldn't find anything suitable, and with no savings, he had to follow Margaret and return to his old profession, grinding tofu every day from dawn to dusk. In the end, Alexander found a wife again. This wife came from a middle-class family, was also in her second marriage, and had 2 teenage sons. I heard that this wife was promiscuous and brought Alexander one hat after another. But at least Alexander was a painless father, which fulfilled Margaret's dream of having a grandson. Lily and I never saw Alexander and Margaret again. It was many years later that I was having dinner with Lily and I saw Sophia through the glass. She had changed a lot, too. She no longer looked like the green tea she had been before, but rather like someone who had fallen on hard times, being beaten by a woman old enough to be her mother while she tugged at her hair. It was from the woman that I learned that Sophia had had a miscarriage and had her uterus removed, which had ruined her health. Coupled with the fact that she had been pampered by Alexander for more than a year, she didn't want to work and had chosen to be a mistress, which was a quick and easy way to make money. But not every wife is as kind as I am. Judging from the way she handled herself so skillfully, it wasn't the first time she'd been beaten. I covered Lily's eyes and laughed, saying, "Don't watch this kind of thing, or you'll have nightmares at night." Sophia also saw me, and there was an emotion in her eyes that I couldn't read. I don't know if it was regret, envy, or maybe both.